Chad has his mock draft 9.0 up, which still has Ben Simmons in the top spot, Chad. But are the Sixers internally 100% behind that pick right now?
Well, I think that, if you're talking internally and you're talking everybody, yes, there's people that like Brandon Ingram in Philadelphia and what have you. I think Simmons is going to be that pick at number one. And there'll be some trepidation because obviously they like Brandon Ingram, and Brandon Ingram in many ways is a better natural fit for the current roster that the Sixers have. With that said, Simmons has the higher ceiling. He has more star potential. And I really think that the Sixers believe that they can play him at least part of the time as a point guard and solve some of their point guard issues and really have a guy who could be a massive matchup problem at the next level because of his size and his athleticism, creating problems on both ends of the floor.
Chad, Ingram would be the one name. Is there a third name at all that the Sixers would even consider?
I think Kris Dunn has been a guy that they've really liked and a lot of people like in the league. And at point guard, such a difficult position to fill. And he's a pure point guard. He's already 22 years old. He's an elite athlete. He can defend multiple positions. There's a lot to love about Kris Dunn. I just don't think he has the ceiling of a 19-year-old Ingram or an 18-year-old, an 18-year-old Simmons and an 18-year-old Ingram, and that's why he's number 3. But Withers have been happy if they'd gotten Kris Dunn, yeah, and in fact, probably secretly, at least Brett Brown was probably wishing that that's what he had more than anything else was an experienced 22-year-old floor general about all these young kids that he's got on the floor.
So, as expected, most people believe the Sixers would go Ben Simmons. Are the Lakers happy to take Brandon Ingram? Is that the guy that they actually would take if they were number one?
Yeah, I think so. They really like Brandon Ingram. He's a great fit for what they need. They have a huge hole at the 3. His ability to stretch the floor, his ability to guard multiple positions on the floor. I think those are all really, really important things for the Lakers. They've worked out other guys, and you've seen them work out other guys multiple times, like Buddy Hield or Jaylen Brown. They've even brought in Skal Labissiere at a point. But I think that has much more to do with them trying to see if they could potentially get another pick in the lottery, especially another pick in the top 6 or 7, and to really try to jumpstart this rebuilding process by bringing in 2 young rookies. And I also think that there is some discontent, not with everybody in the organization, but certainly with some with D'Angelo Russell, who was their number 2 pick in the draft last year. Russell famously burned a lot of bridges in the locker room by disclosing private information from his teammates on the internet, and that certainly did not help the cause there. And he also struggled a little bit. I think as much as the Lakers liked him in the draft, when they got him in the NBA, they saw that there were some weaknesses there that gave them some pause. If they could get, let's say, a top 5 pick in return for him, I especially if it was someone like Kris Dunn, who they really like, I think you could see the Lakers pulling the trigger and perhaps doing another trade.
Chad Ford, don't forget the NBA mock draft special tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Chad, how much did meeting with Simmons have any effect on maybe the Sixers' thought process? Did that factor in at all, or was it going to be Simmons whether they sat down and met with him no matter what?
I think it was going to be Simmons no matter what, but I think that it helped calm some nerves, especially I think the one thing that was going around Philly, which was, does this guy not want to play for us? I mean, is there a reason that he's refusing to do workouts, that he's refusing to sit down and talk with us? Is this a situation, which would be a disaster in Philly in a certain way, that this guy just didn't want to play here and was going to come in and have a really bad attitude? And I think the sit down and the ability to talk with everything from ownership to general manager to coach, I think they walked away from that process understanding that this was much more strategy on the part of his agent than it had anything to do with Philadelphia or Ben Simmons' willingness or even desire to play in Philadelphia. And so I think that was nice. And there was this narrative that was out there that he was trying to force his way onto the Lakers. But when you factor in that he didn't do the same sit-down with the Lakers. That the Lakers didn't get his medicals, though the Sixers did. I think it sort of pours cold water on that theory.
It's interesting because he did that sit-down with Kris Broussard, and he was asked, do you want to be the number one pick? And was that a goal? He did not say that, yes, that was a goal. He just basically said he wants to be the best player that he can be. So it doesn't sound like he's like, yes, I want to be. But he did say, I want to be the best player. My question really is, why? How come he has been so somewhat mysterious? I mean, he hasn't done any workouts. He really hasn't talked much. Very few interviews. What's the reasoning behind that for him?
Look, that's his agent, and that's Rich Paul. That's LeBron James's agent. That's Tristan Thompson's agent. This is a guy who felt like, let's cut through all this crap. Let's get you prepared for the summer league. And his attitude has been very professionally. It doesn't matter where you're drafted on draft night. It matters what you do on the court. And instead of getting him obsessed with where am I taken and what's the number, he's trying to get him obsessed with how do I become the best player that I can possibly be. And so the anxiety that I do understand that fans and media might have of why isn't this guy talking about him wanting to be the number one pick, I think there's another way to look at it, which is that's not the goal. That's the start of the journey, not the destination. And for a number of number one picks, that was the destination. They thought that they had made it when they got drafted number one. They thought that they had been anointed, and that is not the truth. The truth is you start back at zero once you're in the NBA again, and everything from training camp on is about you earning your place in the NBA, and I think Ben Simmons understands that. I think that's been drilled into his head by his agent. He's been mentored by LeBron James, and I think LeBron James has tried to make sure that he understands that as well, that people are going to be gunning for this guy and that his success is going to be determined by his work ethic and his focus and his professionalism, and I think that's what this is all about. And so I understand in our media age, we want accessible athletes. We want athletes that are going to do every interview and that are going to really go out there and sort of show what their personality's like. But I don't think Ben Simmons is trying to market himself right now. I think he's trying to prepare himself to be great, and then the marketing comes.
Chad Ford's latest mock drafts at ESPN.com, where the Sixers have the first pick, 24 and 26. He's got the NBA mock draft special with Tom Penn, Amin Elhassan tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Chad, thanks so much, pal.
All right, take care, guys.